Hey, what's up? Bradley here, back for another episode of Overkill Reviews in the banger hanger. I'm in fury over my jet lag. Maybe. I haven't figured that out yet. We'll see how I feel in like 8 hours. Don't forget to subscribe. Check out our Patreon. Speaking of the Patreon, if you join us there, you get access to our brand new BangerTV podcast. There's 10 episodes up now, and I'm in one of them, talking to Chase from Gatecreeper and Spirit Adrift alongside my boy Blaine. On the non-BangerTV front, my first ever article for Kerrang just went up. It's an interview and video premiere for the slamming, brutal deathcore band Brand of Sacrifice. I'm actually in the music video as like a kidnapped torture victim. So like, if you like me and you want to support me by watching it, that's cool too. If you hate me and you just want to see me get fucking owned, you can go watch that too. Everybody wins. The link is below if you want to check it out. Brand of Sacrifice are actually opening the Summer Slaughter, and the band I'm reviewing this week are one of 3 co-headliners on this tour. It's the first time ever that they're having a triple co-headline on the most extreme tour of the year. That's right, it's Carnifex, their new album, World War X, out today on Nuclear Blast Records. I was just in the office and Blaine asked me who I'm reviewing. I told him Carnifex. He said, what's Carnifex? Are they like a metalcore band or something? No, Blaine, but kind of. They're a deathcore band, so let's talk about them. Carnifex formed in 2005 in San Diego, California, with vocalist Scott Ian Lewis and drummer Sean Cameron. He also does keyboards. They're the only original members left, though the majority of their lineup joined before or just after the release of their debut album, 2007's Dead in My Arms. Third LP, Hell Chose Me, really solidified them as like the most metal of the deathcore bands. And yeah, throughout their career, they've evolved from more of a straightforward deathcore band to one that incorporates other influences, most prominently black metal and specifically the symphonic part. Remember I said the drummer does keyboards too, so that was your hint. The band actually took one really brief hiatus, and I think they took it at the opportune time. It was after 2011's Until I Feel Nothing, which as an album kind of didn't really make me feel anything. They came back in 2014 with Die Without Hope. They were invigorated, and they've pretty much stayed on that trajectory ever since. And now, World War X is their 7th studio album, despite the fact that X means 10 in Roman numerals. The first thing that comes to mind when listening to World War X is that the symphonic parts are less overbearing, less cartoony than they have been ever in the band's career. They only started really implementing those in more recent albums, but I'd say that that's a very important distinction to make because deathcore as a genre is kind of cartoony with these like overly brutal breakdowns that are just like, there's a reason that brutal became a meme around MySpace deathcore because it's cartoony. I mean, the focus on like brutality and breakdowns is like, it's so over the top. It just really is like a hammer smashed face. Carnifex has always been really good at the brutal breakdowns, and you add those brutal breakdowns with like over the top symphonics and it's just like too much for the senses to handle. I've read in interviews, and thankfully Carnifex are the rare deathcore band who don't like shun the term and they're like, we're not a deathcore band, we're actually just a death metal band. And honestly, I think that that's really refreshing. So yeah, Carnifex takes deathcore and they build upon it. Album standout, Visions of the End, takes chugs in a more technical direction, kind of feeling like a fast-forwarded Decapitated. Meanwhile, Closer by Shadows Thine Held takes a groovy mid-song breakdown and effortlessly translates it into a sweep-picking part, right into a melodic solo, and then trem picks their way out. Speaking of trem picking, there's something about it that just makes any riff sound infinitely more sinister than it would be otherwise. So I think the best test for a trem pick riff is taking just the root notes and seeing if it still sounds evil. The one in the Infernal Darkness measures up to the song title without the menacing repetition that trem picking evokes. Blocking bits are cool, and they're at their best when they're juxtaposed with like the chugging, brutal brutality upon which the band has built their career. And they do that in spades on this song and throughout this album. The opening to Brushed by the Wings of Demons is just off enough so it's just right. And actually that's another song that takes an already dark riff and makes it even more bleak by using trem picks. And one more example of the atonal thing, the ending of Hail Hellfire has these guitar sounds that approximate like an air raid siren. It's just like a perfect tone setting tone, I guess, that matches up with the bleakness which with they started this song. Despite not being as blackened, this one is more sinister and dark sounding than a lot of the blackened material going on here. I guess my main gripe with the album is when the tone isn't quite dark enough. World War X is not a concept album. You know, from the title and the album artwork, I thought it might be, but it's not. It's more of a themed album. And by that, I mean that they basically take the typical lyrical topics that they would use and they view them through the lens of a war and what that means. I guess the best way to illustrate this point would be the main melodies in Brushed by the Wings of Demons and Hail Hellfire. While the former has like the melancholy of At the Gates, the latter is a little bit more happy sounding, a little bit more In Flames. Not to knock In Flames, but they're definitely a more happy sounding band. Melody can and should be a part of most music, but this is deathcore, not mellow deathcore. And I guess I just miss the more brutal side of things that used to be the focus for this band and now seems more like an afterthought. Look, I'm not saying that all melody is bad. There are guest vocals from Arch Enemy's Alyssa White Glues on the song No Light Shall Save Us, and they add a haunting touch to it. And that's saying a lot considering I'm not a fan at all of more recent Arch Enemy. And solos are kind of exempt from the over-analysis of their tone because, hey, they're pretty much often used as a device to bring melody in. Oh, and speaking of the solos, they fucking rip. Carnifex are one of deathcore's most consistent bands, and World War X is another pillar in a rock-solid discography. As the band's career has gone on, sometimes those pillars are organized in spookier, more weird ways, such as, you know, maybe like a Stonehenge or a pyramids, which are apparently built by aliens. I don't know. But sometimes they're just really fucking heavy, and if you stood below them and they fell on you, you'd get fucking crushed. And this album has a little bit of both. Carnifex continue to build their world, their mythos. They've had this Ouroboros thing that was on stage for their last tour, now it's on the front of the album cover. Scott has been directing their videos. Overall, the band is coming into a very cohesive identity, not just musically. And I think that musically, they're almost at their magnum opus. I think that the next time they will arrive there. So for that reason, this album I'm giving 3.5 skulls out of 5. Shoutouts. I'm saying shoutouts. So first up, we've got Humanity's Last Breath and their album Abyssal out today. Jesus Christ. That's kind of what it sounds like. It's kind of like a groovy deathcore with like a little bit of a side of progressive and, dare I say, the dreaded D-word gent. It's brutal and catchy and groovy and fun, and you should listen to it because Unique Leader is having a hell of a summer. And then we've got Northlane and their album Alien out today on Unified. So Northlane hold a special place in my heart. They're the first band that I ever toured with back in 2013. And since they lost the vocalist from back then, Adrian, they added Marcus. And I think that this is the album they've been trying to write since Marcus joined the band. They really stripped it back down and just write catchier songs rather than going in a more progressive direction. Yeah, it's like metalcore slash new metal slash with a little bit of prog, but it just feels like they're letting the songs write themselves. And it's really good. That's it for my shit. So comment below, or I don't know how to close out a video anymore.